we are.
Yep.
Another show.
Yep. I'm injured. Yep.
And what's wrong?
So I have a abrasion on my cornea, and I'm pretty sure this is the second time on the show I've had an eye injury. The first time my daughter poked me in the eye.
Yeah, I assumed that that's what had happened to you. Was you'd squared off with her and she put you back in your place.
No, I don't know what did this. I woke up with like searing pain. But
That's the best, right?
Went to the doctor early this morning. Got the neon goop in my eye, which then worked its way down through my sinuses. That was interesting. I was in Walgreens getting my prescription, and I get back in the car and look in the mirror, and I have like like neon highlighter yellow coming out of my nose.
The people at the store are probably like, what?
I know.
They legalized this marijuana plant, and now they're coming out with neon in their nose.
So that's what I told Chelsea. I said, I'm going to tell the lady at the pharmacy, I think I'm doing pot wrong. and it's, sadly, I am at the ergo enough that I know one of the nurses. She recognizes me, not all for my injuries, but my children's as well.
Yes.
Apparently, we're a clumsy family.
Well, no, it's a never-ending cycle of doctor's visits and specialists and other things that come up.
Yeah.
That's kids and family.
So
you want to live, you're going to have to go to the doctor.
Yeah, I know. The only complaint I have, good experience. I got right in. I was in and out under 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Super great. At a walk-in clinic, amazing. But the doctor insisted on drawing a picture for me and walking me through it. And I'm like, lady, I damage my eye often. I know the routine. Can I please just go get my prescription?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Who knows if there's something where they have to say certain things, but at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. If it's a walk-up clinic, you figure they want to get you in and out, so that she'd be like, okay, you know the drill? All right, we'll just do this, and we're out.
Slow day, I'm guessing.
30 minutes, maybe could have been 20.
So I kind of look like a pirate. I was going to wear an eye patch because, again, I injure my eye frequently, and I own...
So when we started, it should have been, ahoy!
Yeah, wait, do you know... Did you know that was, Bell?
Yes.
Yeah, Alexander Graham's
yep.
Bells.
He preferred that greeting, ahoy. I really wish I'd remember to do that when people call me, be like, ahoy?
Ahoy!
Ahoy! Ahoy! Ahoy, you landlubber!
It would have been nice. It would have been nice. My favorite.
If it would have been catchy, that'd be cool. But we wouldn't appreciate it, though.
I like when I get the biker guys on the phone. And they're, yeah, and you guys do boots, you do leather, you make manly man things. Yeah, no problem. And then I get to the conversation okay, bye-bye. I'm you just...
Wow.
Really killed your street cred there with bye-bye. But it's all right.
All right, Sledgehammer. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
What am I saying? I have patches on my elbows. I'm in no room to talk.
Hey, man.
I was saying, you got the manly vest on earlier.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Ready to chop some wood.
I am ready to drink some coffee and...
chill out with a MacBook and watch some videos and write on your blog.
Yeah. One of my buddies, Corey, posted that thing. He's like, while you're all complaining about World War III, remember that it's going to be the brave men that have to do it, not the people, that are sitting here sipping lattes.
Right.
And I liked it fully
Yeah.
fully accepting that I am the latte guy in this scenario.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is not just for, show. I like this vest because it's warm.
Right.
And I can lumberjack it up if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no issues with that. But am I one of the brave men and women of our armed forces? No.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. I thought Corey's post was hilarious.
I did too, and I totally fine with getting called out for stuff like that. That being said, I would love to say I have nothing but respect for our armed forces, and when I get into politics, that is something I totally keep in mind.
But yeah, that's. I have an issue, not with the armed forces of the people that serve in them, but it feels like to me that a lot of people I see posting that are in the armed forces, it feels like, and maybe this is just a bad perception or I'm just reading the wrong post, so forgive me. I'm not trying to pick a fight on this, but it feels like to me that a lot of them just kind of, whatever the current administration says, one way or the other, they're just for it.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be, I'm not trying to generalize, But it feels like that whole thing with taking the oath, of service.
Yeah.
And it's not an order. They can't order you to follow their policies or their politics or anything like that. It's you follow the order of battle or the plan, right? If you're deployed and all that, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to be completely aligned with the administration's policies.
Right.
Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think you're absolutely still allowed to have a vote.
Well, free speech, right?
Yeah. So we dove in. How was your week?
Week was good.
Yeah.
It was actually. It's funny. The week started off as one of those kind of eased into it. Things started off pretty good on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Just got there. I'm like, man, it's just breezing by. Thursday, our kids started gymnastics, which is awesome.
It's exciting.
Very cool for them. Good to blow off some of the energy, which they're going to be 3 here soon. And with that, at that age, man, it's just ridiculous. They're like little batteries. Like, just a tiny bit of sleep and they recharge. And they're probably a little cranky if they don't sleep a lot. But, man, just full steam ahead all the time. And so they did gymnastics. And then Friday was just kind of like a crap shoot from the get-go. Like, nothing went right. And I got to work, and then it was just... I told you Thursday I was busy, because I was busy at work this week. And then Friday was, like even 10 times worse. Like, I was in meetings, having to do stuff, and, like, at the very end of the day, a coworker... I went to get a drink of water, came back, and she had left, and, like, left me a bunch of things for hers to do, but didn't quite explain the... how much there'd be a volume of work, I guess, be the safe way to put it. And I'm telling you, I was up till 10 o'clock just doing that, then unwinding after. I would send my boss an email and a text, and I'm like, read this, check it out, I did my best. But it's like, talk about, like, completely abandoning your coworker, leaving them to their own devices, and, like, hopefully it's right. So, yeah, it's not life or death, but just one of those things.
You could take Chandler's advice from Friends. Just take all that work and delete it and pretend you never got it.
Oh, I talked to her about it, though.
If
I didn't have that, and I just gotten an email like, hey, do this, delete it. That is genius, though. I'm going to put that in the pocket here in my vest, for a rainy day, and pull that sucker out and be like, oh, don't want to do this. Delete it.
Delete. That's going to be a peak. I forgot to put the mat under the mic.
So, forgive me for that.
I'll try to edit it out. Because it's going to be a real episode. It's the first one we've done.
Yeah, and then bad habits have crept back in.
Yeah.
So, forgive me, guys, if you get a loud noise there.
So, let's see. My week was pretty uneventful. I will say happy anniversary.
Yeah.
My darling. Dating together now 18 years. So, well over half our lives. I say well over, but well over.
So far.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and, in the spirit of being adults, we got to spend our anniversary and past 2 days dealing with, vomiting children.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Up at midnight.
Yeah, right. And, literally, in tandem, the spewing would happen. Harry's a professional now. He would, wake up, be like, Mom, hand me the bucket, throw in the bucket, take a drink of water, fall asleep. Like that. Perfect. Evelyn was the exorcist child that did not know what was happening to her, would arch her back, and it was just, there's been 6 baskets of laundry, and today, after, last one was at midnight last night. Today has been good so far. There's been a Lunchable that was kept down, done some crackers. We started with the crackers, and we moved up to some dry cereal, then moved up to a Lunchable. Far so good.
Baby steps.
Like an omelet.
Hey, man. You take the small wins.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's right.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully that continues.
Thank you. Backed out of doing the full-time school this semester. Definitely bummed there.
For the right reasons.
Yeah, there was lots of stuff going on, and lots of events going on that I did not know about, that I found out about, and
policies that were in play that may have set you
Oh
at a
yeah,
disadvantage.
no, yeah, and I have to say, it was the trouble with financial aid was the biggest key issue here. But I was worried about the other stuff. I told you last week, Chelsea has to do the recertification.
Yeah.
And then I found out my mom, who also watches the kids a lot, as well as Chelsea's mom, but my mom's going to be gone an entire week in February, and like all this was falling. In the first semester, I was going full time, and it was a very work heavy, not creative heavy semester. So I think it's going to end up being a good thing. I'm going to get to keep the kids home an extra day a week, just to myself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I was going to be graduating, and then right as Harry would be starting kindergarten, well, preschool, but
yeah.
And I was bummed about that because I really wanted to like get done with school and have that stay-at-home dad year and stuff.
Take the time you can get.
I know.
Our kids are starting their preschool thing in like a couple weeks.
I know. Yeah, because you can start at 3 and do 3, 4, and then do See, we tore ours Monday, tomorrow when this will probably be up. But we go tour Harry's school. He's gonna do part-time.
Good.
Yeah.
It'll be good for him.
I know.
It's hard. Believe me.
I know.
I've been dropping my kids off at daycare since they were 6 months old.
Yep.
And I mean, it's as difficult now, maybe even more now than it was back then when they were teeny tiny babies.
Harry's so excited.
And that's just it. They get excited, and they want especially like when they're sad, like it really hurts you because like you're dropping them off, they're like crying and whatever else. But when like they're excited, it's just like, oh, you don't need me.
Yeah,
right
now. I know.
And you spend 8 hours a day there, 5 days a week. It's like you don't need me.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
Not ready.
No. So take advantage. Take advantage of the time you got, and I mean at the end of the day.
So I told you how to beef. Well, this is like a grind my gears segment
Yes.
we're working. I keep seeing all these darn ads on YouTube where people push stuff, and they have wireless earbuds in.
Yeah.
Come on! Does anybody think that looks cool? Are you like, I trust this guy?
Yeah.
He has earbuds.
I think that is not meant to be a good like fashion statement. It's just like if you're gonna wear the earbuds, man, walk around your house, whatever else. But like it's not supposed to be one of those.
One of them is for a solar power company that I keep seeing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just, come on, people.
It's kind of a bad look.
Doesn't make you look cool.
And I mean, really, if you're gonna, is it one where like they're walking around the job site and whatever else?
Oh God, no! He's literally just standing there.
That's it. That's just it's one thing like if you're using the tool, but like that's crazy. I would like if you just had your phone in front of you and you're just doing it. Like that's
no, it's even worse because it's like someone paid the production company to. There's a camera. I mean,
what?
There's a camera. Well, I'll show you these.
The batteries don't even last that long on those things.
I know. I don't know what they're doing. It's like, look at me.
I have some. I'll be honest.
Money.
I have them, but I don't wear them as a fashion statement.
I got them for Chelsea. Too,
I wear them
for
around
Christmas.
the house.
I got that because she spends a lot of time, where she could have an audiobook on when she's like just doing like data entry or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And doesn't want to bother other people around her. Though I think they would benefit from the book she listens to. She's a smart gal. She likes the smart books.
They probably wouldn't, because they wouldn't pay attention.
I know. Right now she's listening to this book on sleep that's just... Every book Chelsea listens to, I feel like I listen to. And I don't mean anything bad by that. I love the conversation we have. I love hearing the information. But, I don't know.
Does the sleep book want to make you sleep?
Kind of does. It's very interesting. Finally, she showed me a TED Talk with them. That was way better for me.
Is this the guy? He was on Rogan.
Blonde hair.
Yeah.
British guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on TED. I heard him on there.
Great. Crazy.
Makes you feel really bad about yourself in terms of how little sleep you get.
I know. I laid off the caffeine late at night.
Yeah.
I used to always be like, I can drink caffeine and fall asleep, which I can. But
you shouldn't.
I
sure
know.
As hell shouldn't. Well, the thing that kills me is the whole alcohol thing, because I like to drink.
Yeah.
Especially on the weekends.
Yeah.
Like I have a couple drinks, cocktails at night, and it's like, if you're listening to that guy, you were like within probably what was it, 4 hours, 6 hours?
Right.
Like, it's a large window of time where you should not be doing anything like to put your
you're
no
not
alcohol,
getting
no nothing.
The right sleep. Yeah, I was in that habit too, honestly, for a while, where I was having a drink near every night.
Yeah.
Just a drink.
There's nothing wrong. I mean, that's just it. And we're not going to get into the whole alcohol talk right now. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I think that, like I was saying, the weekend thing, like I might have 3 or 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
And like,
I can't do that. I don't drink.
yeah.
The most I have ever is like 3 drinks at home. And that's when I'm like, Chelsea, don't do this again. I don't.
Yeah, I can drink. That's for sure. We're going to Mexico in May to an all-inclusive resort, and I am very much looking forward to drinking.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, hey.
I hear you. To
each their own.
That was my grind. Anything, out there annoying you? Got any beefs with the world?
I'm actually, you know me, I'm a fairly easygoing guy. Like,
I'm the guy that sees problems everywhere.
Well, there are problems everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I let stuff just kind of brush by. I have no gripes, really.
That's why you will live longer than me.
Who knows, man? You never know.
Feel confident.
I have hopefully good genes. If I have my grandmother's genes, I will be a very blessed person.
I know.
Be around for a while, hopefully.
I know. Both our grandmas still kicking. Your grandma's got 10 years on mine.
Yeah, Grandma Miller will be 95 in April.
Yeah, and my grandma's 84, 83.
How old was Grandma Goldie, though?
She was 87.
She lived a long time.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't mean this bad. She just wasn't very active because she had the macular degeneration.
Oh.
She went blind.
Oh, yeah.
So she couldn't see.
Yeah.
Had a hard time. And then she had the Alzheimer's and dementia set in where it was hard to walk. And she was like a toothpick, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was unfortunate.
Lady.
I think that's one thing I got going for me, too. People are just going to be like, sure, I'll push you. Where you want to go? Hop on!
You're talking to people like down the road and you're just like, did you know I just ride on people's backs like a monkey?
It's great. I recommend it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what are we going to talk about? We got some cool topics here.
I know.
I'm excited to contribute to this conversation because these are things I'm passionate and curious about.
If you don't mind, can we start with yours? My phone is still...
The vertical farming piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, really... one thing I want to talk about vertical farming. I mean, just going back. Can
I pre-start this a little?
Go for it.
I'm so sorry.
No.
As I told you to start. Me and Brent made a New Year's resolution.
Yes.
Can I start that?
Yes.
That we're gonna start a business.
Yes.
Other than this.
Yes.
other than this.
We love you guys.
This was last year's thing.
But this is fun.
Yeah.
Not revenue generating. Unless you want to pay us, like we said.
Especially PBS. Come on. We need a left show, especially in Peoria.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the 1470, our local radio show. You wake up and it's I like the first show, the Greg and Dan.
Yeah,
I like those guys.
Okay,
nothing wrong there. But then we get into Glenn Beck, and then we get into Rush Limbaugh, and then we get into these guys, Markley, Van Camp. Oh, I feel bad. I watched the show. I'm not trying to dish them.
I don't know any of these folks. I know the names.
Yeah,
I don't listen to them. Especially
Robbins. Yeah, it was used to the Robbins and Markley show, and then Scott Robbins had some health issues, and then it was the Markley Van Camp show, and then Scott Robbins was doing better and got to come back, and then their show is now syndicated here and in Seattle area, I think. And I gotta be honest, I like the things they do. They have some fun skits, they have some fun countdowns where they use songs,
yeah.
They have great banter. But wow, I disagree with their politics. And they can be, I would say, obliviously insensitive to a lot of people, especially transgender.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably a generational thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're older, aren't they?
The Van Camp guy is my age.
Oh, really?
To our age. To a T.
See, I feel like if you're our age, you really don't have much of an excuse about not being
cats.
considerate.
He adopts cats that have illnesses. I feel like we're like good counterparts. We need to be.
It just goes to show you that you don't have to agree on politics to be not, being those other people who don't agree with you are not good people. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and I made a joke on they posted a thing during the impeachment hearings where it was like a picture of Schiff, and it was in the Jaws. Boat and stuff, and he says, we're gonna need a bigger hoax instead of a bigger boat.
Yeah.
And I wrote, you're gonna need some better hosts.
Yeah, right?
And so Robbins actually called me out with some funny emojis, if you will.
Oh, sure.
And I wrote him back, like, hey, man, politics aside, I'm really glad you're okay after the health issues and stuff like that. And, love the banter, hate the politics. And he, liked it, and it was really nice. And then it was so funny because all the other fans on there were just so mean to me. I mean, they were, like, not hesitating to break out all kinds of bad language.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the host, and he's like...
Yeah.
He's cool.
It's amazing. People, especially with political things, I feel like as soon as you disagree with them in politics, you're immediately a big sack of shit.
Especially on social media.
Person. Yeah, and I mean, it's because you can hide behind the keyboard.
You can hide behind the keyboard.
Hide behind the screen kind of thing. And, and that's really where my issue, I've told everybody I can think of that will listen to me, that's my problem with the president. Like, it's not that he's a Republican. I totally, like I've told you, I would have voted for John Kasich, maybe a couple other guys.
Were you an Obama guy the first time?
Yeah.
Were you?
For sure.
I was McCain the first time.
Yeah, I voted for Obama. It doesn't. I didn't have any major issues with McCain, but I was honestly worried about his health.
Yeah, I was.
And I hated Sarah Palin too.
See, I hate to admit that I did that. That's the rough part about that. My only issue is you do not change political parties during a war. I will say that I think I kind of can, still stand by that. I'm not saying McCain would have cleaned up and done great over there, because he's definitely one of the reasons we got into Iraq.
If he would have had someone else besides Sarah Palin,
I know.
He would have got so many other votes.
Well, do you know who it was going to be?
Huh?
It was going to be Joseph Lieberman, a Democrat. They were going to be the first time to ever split it and go Republican for president, Democrat as vice president.
That'd been crazy.
And the party just freaked out and forced him into... What's-her-face?
Picking her.
Because they thought Hillary was going to win the nomination.
Yeah. I don't know, she seems like she just won't go away.
Which one?
Hillary.
I know. Palin, too, in some regards.
Yeah, I mean, she's not, in the major spotlight now, but... back to what I was saying. My problem with the president is not his politics, necessarily. His choice of what he's going down the road of the extreme, conservative in a lot of areas, I think is really just to bolster his support where he has it, because that's all he's got, And so I hate everything else about him, though.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with his politics. I disrespectfully disagree with his
lifestyle, his choice of words in most cases.
Yep. His general representation of how he likes to be human.
Yeah, man. And thank you. Those are really good words to say a lot of the crap I was getting stuck with there, because it's just my God, I just can't stand it.
If you want to have an educated conversation about Trump, absolutely, and I will still tell you why I do not think he's a good president for any of us, except.
Yeah. I'm not arguing it from the left, or I want to be some bastion.
Yeah.
Freaking raising the standard of the left and saying the Democrats must win because we're Democrats.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is we can't have this kind of crazy person running the country. He's literally a bozo the clown kind of person. He says and does things, but you're just really?
Yeah.
Why?
I feel bad. I'm going to jump back into our topic.
Yeah.
Can we do two more things, though? Can we, just two more things that came up?
Yeah.
Have you seen the stuff coming out, the Boeing... the 7 whatever blah 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 7
the 737 Max
Super Max,
the one that's been grounded, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Have you seen any of the internal?
I've not read the emails, but I've heard people are really pissed off at what they've been saying.
Yeah, one of them said to another email, because the problem was they weren't training the pilots on the actual planes, they were training them on simulators. So one person in Boeing wrote to another person in Boeing and said, would you trust your family flying on a simulator trained pilot? And they wrote back, no. And there's many other people saying that this is a plane designed by monkeys, built by jokers or something like that. I mean, there was a lot of internal disgust with this plane and a lot of effort to slip things past the FAA.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah. And the question I can't wait to find out is how many former Boeing execs are on the FAA, because I promise it's more than one. And,
yeah. There's that's one of the major things that politicians have been having problems with is the close working relationship.
Yeah. And I stand by, this is what happens when you elect a businessman that runs his business like he runs his marriages, very loose on the rules. It allows people to lower their standards, and America needs the highest standards.
Oh, we talked about this before too. Think about it in terms of the office of the presidency.
Yep.
Like, it's supposed to be held to a high standard. You're supposed to be able to expect a person who has manners, who
Yep.
has integrity, that's relatively unquestionable. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
nobody's perfect.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're supposed to represent all the Americans, right?
Yep.
As president of the United States. And I don't feel like that guy has represented me for 1 second.
I agree.
Or anything that I stand for.
I agree. And I mean, he's vindictive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
It's so bad. Like, I can't help. Like, we're going down the path of.
Yeah.
But
I know.
It's so bad.
I had a family member post, "This is how I honestly feel," and it went on. And I was a family member, so I read it. 3 or 4 paragraphs of how Trump is the most targeted president. They've never seen someone mocked so much. And all I could think of is, do you not remember Little Bush, the cartoon on Cartoon Network?
Dude, SNL roasted George Bush every day of his presidency.
I know. Like, he's not any more roasted, I don't think. And then it gets to the end of this 3 or 4 paragraphs. And it says, if you feel the same way as I do, please like and share this thing. She didn't write it. I got fooled.
Yep.
And, like,
yep.
I just, that's...
I hide posts and I, like, snooze people for 30 days because I can't stand the stuff they post about misrepresentations, and, like, it makes me so angry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the thing is, he literally said in his first State of the Union address that he wanted to be a unifying force for the country. And, like, he's literally pulling everything apart at every turn, like from education to the environment to regulations about how transgender people are treated.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on. Everything. Fighting the Fed for monetary policy. Like, why on earth were you going against a person you got
throwing a secret service, or throwing the intelligence agency,
and then golfing all the time when he said that he wouldn't have time to golf.
And you heard Mnuchin wants to not release the numbers until after the election on how much they spent on Secret Service and detail on Trump. Yeah. They spent over $500,000 in Secret Service golf carts alone.
They spent a ton of money doing things, but
that's why you should vote for me. I play video games.
So I think it was because there was a running total at one point. Trump outspent the Obamas like first 4 years. I think before he finished a year of his presidency on these kind of things like golf and stuff like that. It's like, why? There should be a cap, period. Like, there should be a budget for that shit. You should not be able to go off willy-nilly doing things. And, like, do I agree that the Obamas should have spent a long time in Hawaii? You have Camp David and other things that are probably more appropriate. Yeah. Like, if you want to be the president, you have to be willing to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. 8 years is a long time.
Yeah. What was your other thing you wanted to talk about?
I was going to say, what did you think about the whole briefing that the Trump administration did for the Senate on the Khashoggi, not Khashoggi, I'm sorry, but Soleimani.
Oh, bin Salman.
Yeah.
The Iranian general.
Did you hear the
killed.
Republican
guy
came out?
I can't remember who.
It wasn't Rand Paul.
He was standing. Rand Paul was.
His name was Miller, but I don't believe it is.
No, he was standing with another congressman who was on the actual interview that I saw. He's like, they're only here for an hour and 15 minutes. No one got to ask any questions.
They got shushed, apparently. They said that the people doing the briefing told them that they shouldn't debate doing any further any further action against Iran because it would just instigate Iran to do more retaliation back to us. And
you just killed the guy.
I know, and I really think Trump pushed it a little bit too far this time because he had the Republican people vote to curb his power.
Yep.
I mean, got pretty bipartisan.
Yeah, and that's tough.
Which I think it's kind of funny. That's where the line is. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great line. I wish it would be a lot further up. But they're like, yeah, you're not going to get us into World War, man. You can screw the economy, screw the air,
make money off your office.
Yeah, but
we'll let a lot of things go.
World War III.
You can withhold almost $500 million in taxpayer money to get your way with an election. But if you actually kill someone and risk all our lives, we can't do that. Yeah, that is a pretty funny point.
Last one I'm just going to throw out there quickly.
Yeah.
Is that I thought it was interesting. Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh yeah,
Alexandria
AOC.
Ocasio. Yeah. She is withholding her payments
Yeah,
to the DNC.
yeah.
High five to her, in my opinion, on that
I was
one.
gonna say, I think we may disagree on this one.
I understand. I love her points, though, that the DNC refuses to give money to candidates who want to go against other Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people who have more left agendas. I mean, if the money's there to help people campaigning, I feel like they should use it. I'm not saying they have to shoot themselves in the foot with it, but I mean, how else does Democrats stay on the front line of things?
I don't necessarily disagree with those points. I have more of an issue with the fact that you are a part of this party and you had to have known what you were getting into, right?
I don't know how much she did. I think it's more she found out and was like, yeah, no.
You want to be part of the party, this is what everyone else is doing. Now, here's my point, okay?
Yeah.
Quickly, my point would be more or less, I'm more on the principle, I don't disagree with her points about you should have a fair playing field, definitely.
And she is using the money. She is giving the money to fund candidates. Like, she's not...
Withholding all of it?
She's not, withholding the money to say, my money now. No, she's using it to fund Democrats. And some of them are Democrats, Democratic primaries, where they want to go against a sitting Democrat and stuff.
I don't disagree with that on that piece of it. I think, though, if you want to play ball with it, you're going to have to find a better way than just saying you're not going to pay.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Well, she just has some demands, and I think they're pretty fair. I think they need to be heard, at least.
Yeah, don't just
She
agree.
gave a lot of money to Bernie Sanders and stuff, which I thought was interesting and good.
Yeah. I think that, if I was, in charge of the DNC, I'd be more along the lines of saying, okay, well, if you don't want to do this, then we have to come to some compromise.
Oh.
Or
Yeah.
you leave the party. Run as an independent.
I don't think they want her to do that.
Well, I don't think they do either,
You know how
necessarily.
much money she's raking in?
A ton, probably.
Yeah, she owes them $500,000 based off what she's raised. I mean, she's a money earner at this point, and that's why they love Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi is the #1 Democratic fundraiser.
Believe that.
So AOC is definitely bringing in the bucks.
They need the next generation, that's for sure. They're going to have some issues.
I know, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about on the show today. When we get there, is something that kind of goes against the left, which I think is fun. But as I started and got away from 12 minutes ago, Brent and I said we're going to start a business this year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we came back to is an idea Brent has had for 10 years?
Long time, yeah.
Long
Been
time.
looking into it, researching.
Research. It's evolved, it's changed, it's shifted, and it's something we're interested in and researched a lot, so we're going to give some of that information to you, and it is
Vertical farming.
vertical farming.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I love the topic. I mean, like you said, it's been something I've been researching for a long time. I think I literally just saw a video on YouTube, and it was really YouTube and not an ad campaign system.
Add to.
Yeah. Just kind of championing the ideas. And I've read articles and whatever else from it too, but aquaponics, I think, is the main term I was initially introduced to. And it's just building a symbiotic cycle with fish feeding off of plants, generating waste then being part of that cycle and feeding other plants to grow vegetables and other herbs and things like that. So I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching are probably familiar with like hydroponics, or even general gardening, right? You put the plant in the ground or in some system that provides nutrients. I think the aquaponics idea really just takes the next step in creating a more natural network for the nutrients versus adding chemicals to the system.
Because ideally, you would want something called, not maybe ideally, but something you could aim to achieve would be called a closed system.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is basically where the fish waste is enough to feed the plants.
Yep.
And
the plants that are in the tank for the fish are enough to feed the fish and create that cycle. Yeah. And then that would create the waste in the system that would feed the vegetable type growing plants like lettuces and things. that could be harvested, and then we could eat that kind of stuff.
So, and like you said, hydroponics. Well, there's traditional gardening, which is in dirt. We're going to do some terms. Grow medium.
Right.
So when you're outside, your grow medium is dirt.
Yep.
When you're doing hydroponics, your grow medium can be several different things. There are cubes of a material called rock wool.
Yep. You've told me about that.
There's the pebbles.
The clay ones.
Clay pebbles that are popular. And hydroponics, there's tons of different types and
there's
different...
like styrofoam containers too that float, right?
Yeah, yes, and there's tons of different options to do hydroponic setups. Do you remember some of the names? I remember ebb and flow, deep water culture.
Yep.
And
those are kind of the main.
Yeah, and ebb and flow.
There's a third one too. I can't remember.
I know, that's what I'm trying to think of too. Ebb and flow is the water is rushes over the plants and then comes back over the plants. The roots are actually not sitting in dirt; they're sitting just in the nutrients, in the water filled with the nutrients.
Yep, and they're just being kind of flushed over and over.
And then when you add fish to the mix,
that's
when you take hydroponics and turn it into
aquaponics. Yeah, and I think that there's building that closed system is probably the biggest challenge with making that leap, because you have to figure out the ratio of the fish, and then there's other considerations too with that make it more complicated than just the simple idea, right? You've got to have kind of a biofilter to maintain the bacteria that are necessary to break down.
Because there are some unwanted byproducts.
Well, correct, and there's solids in there, and like the ammonia, you've got to break that down into things that the plants can utilize as a fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you run into that issue where you have, you really got to maintain a nice balance, because if there's too much acid in the water, you'll kill the fish. The pH is critical.
Yeah, right.
And so it's much more difficult, I think, to probably achieve that relationship where you're not like constantly messing with it. You have to be religious about your testing and of the water and the quality, and
it's something that can go off very quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't just go on vacation and come back and hope for the best. I mean, if you screw it up, your fish are dead, and then you could probably maintain the network of the plants with just chemicals and things, but then you're back to hydroponics.
But in some ways, with vertical farming, that's kind of...
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned that term when we were first talking about what the topics would be. And so vertical farming, most of that done today is the hydroponic, the deep water cultures, the ebb and flow type systems that don't incorporate the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's that difficulty factor of maintaining the network. It's still a closed system where and when you're talking hydroponics, typically there's grow beds, right? It's more it's horizontal farming.
Yeah.
Right. Where you literally have grow beds, and then it's pumping through a system, and it's either pipes or just literally a bed of water or grow media.
Mm-hmm.
The vertical aspect is where you take that principle and then create stacks, if you will, of growing. And some of the vertical farming is grow beds. It's just literally like if you picture a giant pallet racking almost, and they stack just a bed with lights and all that. Like that's vertical farming in one fashion.
Right.
But the fashion that we've been talking about and learning about most recently is more of just like stacks of tubes that have plants growing out of inlets, I guess you might call them, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it creates a network, and all of it has to be pumped, and recycled. It's not just stagnant water that won't work. It's got to be a flow with pumps and nutrients that are provided. So, and then experimentation too with like what works well and the lighting situation.
So what kind of stuff can you grow in the vertical farming?
Well, the things that we've looked at the most, more of the herbs. Your thymes, oreganos, and cilantros, and things like that.
Yep.
And like lettuces, of course.
Leafy
greens. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem I think you run into with the vertical farming is it's hard to necessarily do flowering plants.
Well, I imagine that nutrients would be difficult to give them enough.
Right. Yes. Because once plants go from kind of the vegetative state to the blooming state, it's a whole different ballgame of nutrients and how much they need, and then you run into light issues and stuff like that too. When if you think about it, I look like a pirate. If you think
Be the
about it,
pirate.
you can grow spinach or lettuce in 2 inches of soil, which is, I mean, that's why people say keep your old colanders, stuff like that. You can put them in a windowsill and grow lettuce up there.
Yeah.
So I think lettuce lends itself well to this kind of a system.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like heads of lettuce.
Correct.
We're talking about leafy greens.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you want to call it like artisanal, but just more of the gourmet type things instead of your typical iceberg and.
Because we are gourmet.
Right. Well, it's what's in fashion now. People they don't want as much of the
arguably healthier.
Yeah,
more
well,
fiber and
definitely more nutrients
yeah.
rich, right? I mean, lettuce is mostly water anyway, but when you add any other value to it, it's more substantial.
Which is why it's nice to do the spinach. And
yeah,
like
that's something we've been talking about too. We're gonna trial that, and so it's more. I think at this point we want to prove the concepts out, make sure that it's something viable, and then start figuring out how to do something more commercial. And I think there's principles behind it too, right?
Yeah.
We talked about, if you do aquaponics, then you have to kill the fish and sell the fish, and lots more, many more barriers to entry there, but also moral pieces of it too. We're not against killing animals. We eat animals all the time.
Love to kill animals.
Yeah,
tons of fun.
Hunting is a very important thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
farming is a very important thing.
Right.
I think
right.
For us, just personally,
it's
another leap.
It's another leap. It's an expensive leap. I mean, like you said, barriers of entry is great. When I was doing work with the farmers market in East Peoria, I mean, just when you go to apply, growing vegetables, you can sell pretty easily. There's not a lot of
Qualifications.
Yeah, qualifications, restrictions.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, but when you get into killing animals, they get very, very particular in how you do that.
Yeah, I get it.
Damn the man.
Well, they don't want to roll up with just a bunch of nasty whatever.
I know.
Make people sick.
And that's the one thing I think that's super important is that there's proper ways to do it. And,
ethical
ways to do it.
So.
And yeah.
This is super exciting.
It is.
It's been a super long time in the making, but that's what makes me feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
Because we vetted a lot of this over time and come back to it.
And it's going to be something I think we can share with you and share some of the experiences that we have.
I hope so. Definitely.
We can do a couple build episodes if you're interested, because I plan to make this to be fun with the kids.
Right, especially the home setup, when we're proving things out. That's the point of it, is to prove it out, but also to enjoy it. Like, if this is something super arduous and a pain in the butt, there's no way on earth we're going to be able to
do it on
ourselves.
full-time living.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I hope that it works out well, and that my only struggle is figuring out what to do with all the plants that I have.
You and I both enjoy gardening.
Definitely. I garden every year. Love it, for sure. Try to get better at it, too. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Easy to grow things. It's hard to be good at it.
I know. And I just remember my grandpa. He was really big at trying, like, the new things and, like, the gardening magazines. And the one I always remember the most is, like, he did the Indian trick of burying dead fish, like, near his tomato plants. Fine, it works. But you can bury probably anything in your plants, and if it's got nutrients, it's going to help.
Yeah, man. I usually rake over, like, compost from leaves and things when I have trees.
So I started alternating my raised beds. 1 year a raised bed is strictly composting. The other one I'll switch back and then do the composting in the other one, because it's just amazing how many nutrients you throw away out of your house that you could use for your soil and stuff. I mean, all the natural food that breaks down, cardboard, coffee grounds, food scraps, stuff like that. You want to save that. That's your, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of almost like a freebie.
It is.
You're using it anyway. It's like a second use, but it's got...
Yeah, and it's, pretty organic. I'm sure there's probably some weird qualifications that it was an organic tomato to begin with that I let compost, but...
At the end of the day, we're eating all kinds of GMOs, so...
Ew. I know.
What are you going to do?
It makes my cereal wonderful.
That's right. So, I think that's...
Yeah, no, that's great.
Topic 1, super exciting.
It's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to doing the build videos. It's going to be something new. You get to see our legs.
We have legs.
We do have legs. And that'll be fun. So, stay
something
tuned
different.
For that.
Yeah, you'll get to either watch us ride in the glory into the sun, off into the wild blue yonder and have some fun with this adventure, or you'll be able to watch us crash and burn and fail and wallow in misery for a few minutes and then figure out something else to do, because we're resilient if nothing else.
Yeah, oh man. So, let's shift gears then, if you don't
Yes, sir.
I have to admit I've been wrong about something. I've been very wrong about
Me
something,
too.
in fact.
After talking to you, definitely.
I have been a big fan of renewable energy such as solar and wind.
Yep.
Here are some of the problems with solar and wind. Did you know they are only producing electricity 10 to 30% of the time?
I knew it wasn't all of the time because the wind doesn't always blow and the sun is not always shining.
Yep.
But I had no idea it was so little.
Yeah, pretty low.
It's probably not consistent, right?
Not consistent. It's a diluted energy source, if you will. Sun's far away. Wind isn't like... You can't control where the wind's coming from. There's just a lot of variables that make the wind hard to
Harness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've been listening to this guy, and he's been talking about how he was a big advocate of renewable energies, and
I've been looking at solar panels for my house.
so have I, and that was one of his big things. But, Brent, why have you been looking at solar panels for your house? Have you been seeing a lot of advertisements for it?
Yep. Tax incentives.
Uh-huh.
Also, people like financing type programs, like just pretty much just giving you the darn panels and trying to get them up as fast as possible so you can contribute to the grid and have zero energy bills.
Now, why do you think all of a sudden there's this push to do this?
Well, you know what? Before I talked to you, I didn't think a whole lot about it. But at the end of the day, as with everything, you need to follow the money.
Follow the money. Exactly. So, some of the problems with solar and wind are, again, they're not always producing energy, and when they do produce energy, it varies greatly.
It's not just like a straight flow of this much power. It's
right. Sometimes solar is, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes wind is the same way, especially on a windy day. And so the problem is you have power grids that can handle so much power.
Yeah,
okay?
That makes sense. I mean, it's all wires connected, and like wires rated for so much power.
Right.
So it makes sense that they can only hold so much at any given time.
Exactly, and you hear about the grid blowing and stuff like that. So
and you don't want to like go over and flip your light switch though, not have enough power, and nothing turns on. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man, I got you.
And so with nuclear power is very steady. Let's say it's like the steady horse in this race, where it's very hard to ramp it up or very hard to turn it down. Okay, so when you start adding a bunch of solar and wind to your grid, you actually have to close down some of your nuclear plants and actually open more natural gas and coal plants, because like the dial on your stove, it is much easier to turn up and down the power and energy coming from natural gas, especially when compared to nuclear.
I had no idea. Like, I figured that nuclear power was one where, there was like a very reliable, steady flow. I mean, it's I'm not a nuclear engineer by any means.
I am not either.
I do know that nuclear material, rods, I believe, and the reactor are utilized to create a reaction that generates steam and then turns turbines, and that's how it generates power. And I know that nuclear generates a lot of waste. Now, you can talk about quantities, but in the general sense, it generates a fair amount of waste.
Okay.
Right? There's waste.
But
let's talk about it again in a second.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
But, like, I had no idea I don't know, I just had this vision in my head, like, oh, they'll just turn it down. Like, it doesn't have to, you know what I mean? Like, it was like a dial. Like, you said a dial.
Right.
I'm like, I didn't figure it was something that was, you were talking about the grid. I just thought, like, they'd have some way to just blow off some extra power. Like, I don't know. It seems so dumb to not have that.
Yeah,
to me.
Well, and California is experiencing this problem because they have some of the biggest solar farms, but they have had a surplus of energy at times where they actually have to pay neighboring states to take the energy. Meaning they're not selling an asset, they're actually losing money now on an asset.
How can they not have something they can use the power for? We already talked about this.
So let's talk about batteries.
Drives me nuts.
Let's talk about things we could charge and store. So if you take all the batteries in all of California, including the car batteries, truck batteries, stuff like that, and you charge them all, there would not even be enough for 30 minutes of power of the state of California. So
that's pathetic.
We don't have the means to store energy, and that's why solar and wind just aren't the answers. And I mean, I hate to quote some of the. So before I get into my
deep dive
data
there.
here. I would just go over some of the stupid things, like uh, the wind turbines. They kill a few 100,000 birds a year.
I knew there was environmental impacts, but
Yeah.
like I've heard about the bats.
Right. Well, and a few 100,000 birds a year compared to cats. Cats killed over 1 billion birds a year. But the problem is birds are killing small birds that are not at all endangered or something.
Cats?
Yeah, cats kill over 1 billion birds a year.
The little bitty birds.
Yeah, like
Yep.
the sparrows,
Yep.
finches. And the wind turbines, they're taking out the bald eagles, birds that are facing population numbers and habitat issues. And like you said, bats, there's at least two different species of bats that are been put near extinction just because of wind turbines.
It's just like some kind of resonance when it spins or whatever, like it attracts them or something like that.
I think they literally aren't seeing it. They are just they're getting whacked. Yeah.
Jesus,
And I know it's not
like
funny.
bats are so important that it makes you so sad that
It does, and I'm
messing them
sure
up.
there's echoes. Because, I mean, think about how many mosquitoes they eat, especially mosquitoes with West Nile and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, we're messing up ecosystems.
Oh yeah, the whole I don't know. You talk about the grid. There's a grid of nature too. It's like all connected.
And it can only take so much, too.
Yeah.
So
Hydroelectric, I knew there was some issues with that. We're not talking about hydroelectric so much as wind and solar, but hydroelectric, there's issues with dams and things. So like that's renewable, but damming things that flood cities and ruins, habitats and all that. But man, the ones you thought that were on your side.
Right. So, and now the natural gas companies and the coal companies know that if you are going to have more solar and more wind, that you will need more gas and
Coal.
coal. And so that is why we have all been seeing Ameren, of all people, sending us solar incentives and stuff like that. All about it,
Why not if it's going to ramp up your production and need?
Your need. Exactly. Then that's why a lot of the websites you see out there that are very anti-nuclear at this point are actually probably funded by natural gas companies or coal companies because they have something to gain.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering whether there was more nuclear power plants going up, and I know it's super heavily regulated, but I believe there's some like barriers to adding plants too, like regulatory, like they don't want anymore.
Well, solar panels produce about 300 times more waste than nuclear reactors when providing the same amount of energy.
Like in volume of waste?
Volume of waste. And that is from, my eyes messed up, the Environmental Progress Group, which I can give some links to all of these. Now, the other thing I think is really interesting, we think, oh, it's good, right? It's going to be good for us because it's renewable. That must mean it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Renewables, cheaper. 2016... Germany electricity emissions were 43% higher without electricity from closed nuclear plants. That's a lot. I mean, literally, that means we're looking at almost double our prices.
That's crazy. Like, I never would have thought to, like, I mean, it must be like the steady flow. Like, once you put the infrastructure in and build the plant, like, it's just running. There's not a lot of ramp up and down or anything else. You know what I mean? From the nuclear.
Yes.
That's why, because if you have to turn off and on the coal plants, and it's just not as efficient.
And that's one of the issues. Is like a lot of liberal publications like The New Yorker and Foreign Affairs, they will claim that renewables are better for society and not just the environment. And they will use identical arguments to those that are in like the Green New Deal. There is lots of problems I found in this research attacks the Green New Deal. And the thing I would like to go back to the Green New Deal is it is a non-binding resolution. It was like, let's all eat marshmallows every day and dance in the sun. I mean, it could have said anything. It was...
I get you. I don't think... People just, again, they want something to latch on to attack, so...
I know.
Makes sense.
That's a good point. Okay, and here's some of the better numbers. Just to contrast, Germany and France. Germany has done much of what the Green New Deal calls for. And by 2025, we'll have spent $580 billion on renewables and, the related things while shutting down nuclear plants. And all Germany will have gotten for its energy transition is a 50% increase in electricity prices. And electricity supply that is 10 times more carbon intensive than France's. Because France spent $30 billion on renewables and saw the carbon intensity of going towards the electricity and the sky-high prices.
Yeah.
So France was like, we're doing the nuclear! And that was it. And one of the things that I like this was from Forbes. So the problem with nuclear is that it doesn't demand the radical remaking of society like renewables do, and it doesn't require grand fantasies of humankind harmonizing with nature. I think those are good points.
Nuclear energy has it has substantial pros. It has cons. I mean, once the waste is created, it has fallout, right? Long half life, so you have to dispose of it.
So yeah, let's talk about what are your concerns with nuclear.
So the big problem with the nuclear waste that I've read, been understood so far anyway, was that it's super toxic and it has nuclear fallout, right? So it's I don't know if it's uranium, plutonium, whatever it is. It's got to go on. I think they put it like in these rail containers, and they put it or were putting it in like this mountain or like underground. Yeah, and they also put it in like salt.
In California's one too. Yeah, bury it's a lot of the big things they do.
Yeah, basically they bury it in different means.
Yeah.
And then they encase it and whatever else, and then basically it's gotta emit the radiation and have it produce fallout. Like, and so that's the concern is like, what are you gonna do with all that waste as it keeps happening?
So here's the benefit though.
Yes.
We can capture the waste. How are you going to capture the waste with gas? How are you going to capture it with coal? Yep. You can't. It's just in the
carbon
air.
capture technology is not there.
Studies indicate that the worst possible accident at a nuclear plant is less destructive than other major industrial accidents. And as I'm quickly trying to find things, here we go. From the WHO, 7 million people die annually from air pollution. And guess how many people died from nuclear? Deaths per, I don't remember, I can't remember the abbreviations, but deaths per electricity hour, it's a way bigger one.
Okay.
Kilowatt, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, 0 is for nuclear. Like, coal is almost 30, petroleum, petroleum, that's a new thing. Petroleum is up there, biomass, natural gas.
Per unit of electricity, the number of deaths is what you got.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Another gentleman, this is from Environmental Science and Technology 2013 article. Nuclear power has saved 1.8 million lives to date by preventing the burning of fossil fuels. So, I get that there is nuclear waste, and as a byproduct, but we saved 1.8 billion lives.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like a bullet list of issues, right? And you also had a point that we didn't get to, but so the volume of waste, I don't know how much the volume is, but I think you have a number or some kind of comparison, like how much waste per person.
I don't have the waste per person. I have the uranium. The amount of uranium that each one person would need for a lifetime of energy is roughly the size of a Rubik's Cube.
But so the uranium that's used, though, with that element, what's that block of uranium? Let's just imagine, like, we all get a Rubik's Cube, it's going to power our lives.
Yeah.
When that thing's done providing power, that same size, it doesn't mass doesn't go away. That thing has to go into a container and get, I think, put away.
From my understanding, it's not the uranium that's stored; it's the water.
The water is a byproduct too, but those the rods,
the fuels.
The fuel cells or whatever you call them, those things go bad too. Then when they're done, that's what gets stored away in the mountains.
I understand. I really do I'm gonna look up on this too because now I'm curious.
Go for it, yeah.
I really do thought the bulk of the waste is the water.
Okay. Well, maybe quantity wise.
Because I thought once the rods are depleted, they're depleted.
Right.
I'm not saying we could go play with them in the streets or something like that, but I thought it was the water was the bigger issue. I asked Brent earlier.
Yeah, might be. Go ahead, keep going.
And so I can't ask him again because it would ruin the fun of it all. But let's ask you fine people. How many people died in Chernobyl? Maybe there's numbers popping up down here. Maybe I did it. Maybe I didn't. Who knows?
I said something like, 500?
Yeah. And it wasn't a lot. It was like 15, I believe. Fukushima, here's Chernobyl. 28 died directly from the thing. There were 15 deaths from thyroid cancer in 25 years. Those 15 deaths were largely related to people in isolated areas who couldn't get the treatment that they needed. There was a 1% death rate overall predicted for thyroid cancers. 16,000 excess thyroid cancers in total predicted, therefore 160 deaths. And there's no scientific evidence of increased thyroid cancer outside the 3 republics where it happened. What is it? It's Russia, Ukraine, and I can't remember the last one. I feel bad. There has been no effect on fertility, malformations, or infant mortality.
Mm-hmm.
There has been no conclusion on adverse pregnancy outcomes or stillbirths. Heritage effects are not seen and very unlikely at these doses, and there's been no proven increase of any other cancers. And to be perfectly honest with you, Fukushima is better. It was the second worst thing. There was no radiation-related deaths.
So far.
Compared to the 1,500 who died as a result of evacuation or stress related to it, and approximately 20,000 that died in the tsunami.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, just to keep things in perspective.
Yeah. No. All good points.
Unlikely to be any increase in thyroid cancer at the doses received. Psychological harm due to evacuation and the radiophobia, meaning Japan broke so many protocols in evacuating people that should have hunkered down in place, and in doing so caused more trauma and stress and, incidentally, more exposure to radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Anything there?
What I found about... So it's uranium fuel, but it's got other different kinds of radioactive elements in it, and basically strontium and cesium are part of it. In the radioactive process, they have a half-life of 30 years. And then plutonium is another part of that process. It has a half-life of 24,000 years.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah. And so basically, until they're well past their half-life, they're still deadly, even with minor exposure. But basically what this thing says is they use that fuel for about 5 years, then they remove it, and it gets sent to like the Yucca Mountain type situation. Yeah. And then there's also low-level radioactive waste, which is the water piece of it, that a lot of times is routinely disposed of at various sites around the country. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that means.
Illinois River.
Yeah, probably. At the end of the day, I don't disagree with your point, though. I mean, like, you can A, capture it, and B, it's something
somewhat
that
safely disposed of.
Yeah, you can get rid of it and find something to do with it, and yeah.
So let's talk about the increased risk of mortality.
Yeah.
Living in a big city versus small town, you have a increased rate of mortality of 2.8%. Living with a smoker, you have an increased rate of mortality of 1.7%. Exposure to the Chernobyl incident, you would have a 1% increased risk of mortality. And exposure, it's a different level of Chernobyl. The one is 250 MSV.
Whatever level of radiation.
Yeah, is 1%. And if it was at 100 SMV from Chernobyl, it was a 0.4%. To put it in perspective, the A-bomb test in 1960, again, I don't know this abbreviation, but it was 675,000 PBQ. PB is lead, isn't it?
Well, PB is lead, but I don't know about PBQ.
I don't know.
Maybe.
So that was the atom bomb test in 1960, 675,000. And Chernobyl was 1,760. And Fukushima was 100 to 500. So, I mean, dramatically less radiation.
Yeah.
You get 0.005 MSV of radiation when you get a dental x-ray.
Yeah, see, that's just it. Like, we haven't really gotten to this, but radiation's everywhere. Like, there's all different kinds of it. You're exposed to medical tests. You're exposed every day from the sun. You're exposed. Cosmic rays are flowing through our bodies right now, no matter when and where you're at.
The average annual dose just from living life is 2.7 MSV.
Yeah.
CAT scans go up to 9 to 10.
And if you fly on planes a lot, you're exposed to even more radiation
and
because the atmosphere's not there to
the
stop
AB
it.
dose of Chernobyl residents, 6 miles around Chernobyl, was 9 SMV. So, I mean, radiotherapy for breast cancer is 50 SV. I mean, just to put it in perspective, I'm not saying it's like...
No, the people are missing a lot of, like, the context, though, especially the cancer treatments. Like, we don't even think about that a lot. Like, the radiation kills the cancer, but it kills a lot of good stuff, too.
So, and people were asked a question, okay? They were asked, Chernobyl accident happened in 1986. In your opinion, how many people died because of the Chernobyl radiation exposure? Only 8% of people got that right. And when it came to Fukushima, the question was, Fukushima accident happened in Japan 2011. In your opinion, how many people died because of the Fukushima radiation exposure?
Mm-hmm.
And...
they probably blamed all the tsunami deaths on the radiation.
I know. Nobody got that right. 0%.
Yeah. I wouldn't have had a clue. I would have guessed at least somebody, but apparently it's none.
I think that's just fascinating. I think the public's knowledge of nuclear and the dangers of it are...
yeah. And that's just it. So it's not typically aligned with a lot of the stuff we comment on, but at the end of the day, facts are facts. And that's something we've been talking about since the start of this. Like, we're not ones to just be set in our ways if we learn of new things. And this is something that's eye-opening for me. I mean, I'd be much more of a proponent for nuclear, plants than I am or had been in the past.
It's, I mean, just looking at some of the other slides, nuclear is already safest way to make reliable energy. That was talking about some of the other deaths from, like, air pollution, death from air pollution, coal, petroleum, biomass, natural gas. They all have deaths that are caused.
Yeah.
Nuclear doesn't have that.
Not to the extent and level, and the risks are much lower, apparently.
I told you this. It's cracking me up. I'm watching this TED Talk. This guy seems very educated, very smart guy. And then at the very last thing he says is, if they don't believe me, here's something Sting said. I didn't really think that nailed it home for me, but I'm going to go ahead and use a quote, because why not?
He was hoping Sting would see it.
I know. If you're just waiting for the police to motivate you. If we're going to tackle global warming, nuclear is the only way you can create massive amounts of power. And he's just right. The problem is he's just absolutely right. And until we can figure out some other way to do it, it's just not going to work. I found a great picture. Again, all these are from a TED Talk that I'll link to the thing.
Definitely.
But it talks about the basic thing to take away from is fallout/nuclear discharges, A-bombs, nuclear accidents, Chernobyl and Fukushima account for only 0.3% of the radiation that we get. 9.5% is from food, 12% is from cosmic rays, 15% is medical, 13% is gamma rays from grounds and buildings, 50% from radon gas from the ground. Most of it's from radon. And
so the radon system.
0.1% nuclear discharge, 0.1 products, 0.2 fallout, 0.2 occupational.
Yeah. That's just it, perspective, right? People don't have that.
Yeah.
Gotta put things in proportion.
Another quote from an article, it was in The Guardian in April. It said, the anti-nuclear movement to which I once belonged has misled the world about the impacts of radiation on human health.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, my mind's been clouded too.
So, that's the fun thing. There's lots of good charts. Most of them you really need to see. One of the interesting things just to throw out there, as wind and solar account for more energy, they become less cost effective because you run into more of the problem of the variance.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
The more you depend on them, the less profitable they are.
So really, unless you found a way to really ramp up the battery capacity that we have, then there's no way to capture that.
And it's just a funny thing today that happened to be in the news since I was researching the show and stuff. CNN article, Canadians got an emergency alert about a nuclear power plant incident. It was sent in error, the plant says. But it says, this is the province of Ontario emergency bulletin, which applies to people within 10 kilometers of the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station. An incident was reported at the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station. There has been no abnormal release of radioactivity from the station, and emergency staff are responding to the situation. People near the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station do not need to take any protective actions at this time. Remain tuned to local media for further information. I mean, that doesn't... it probably sounds scary, but knowing it was an accident But even still, that doesn't sound that scary.
No. And I think knowing the little bit that I do, staying inside your house, if there is something going on, is better than going outside and be exposed to it.
So, yes. I don't know. I hope you found some of this stuff interesting.
That's right.
I want, like, one of the
Go check it out. Like, go see the TED Talk he's going to link. So you'll get the chance to, like...
The big things I thought that needed to get this show out there for is I just saw a public opinion poll for energy. And what do you think the top of the people's choice for electricity is?
Probably solar.
Yep. Next one.
Wind.
Yep.
Hydro.
Yep. Yeah, dude, you nailed it.
I should have played the lotto today.
All right, what's 4? Do you know 4?
Probably natural gas.
Yeah. All right, 5.
Coal.
Nope. Biofuels like ethanol.
I don't count those.
Next one is clean coal.
Clean coal.
Oil and
They're just not really clean.
Then nuclear power, and then coal. That's public favorability.
Wow.
So nuclear comes in at 28%.
That's crazy.
It's second from the bottom. Yet it is the answer, ladies and gentlemen.
I would agree.
Hope that today's show has given you...
perspective, if nothing else. Something to go research more about. Because I'd love to hear some feedback, understand more if you agree, disagree. Because I went into this thinking that renewables was where it's at. Like, let's get some solar panels on the roof, start charging my solar pack, and then now I've understood that that's not the good way to go, because after 30 years it won't work anyway.
I know, and that's the other big thing that the TED Talk will do a nice job of. It shows a chart of material throughput by type of energy source, and the chart shows the masses of materials used, so tonnage of materials. And for solar, I mean, it is off the charts of the things it requires, and nuclear, it takes the least. It takes concrete and
steel,
uranium. I mean,
no nuclear elements, radioactive elements.
It's just going to be the answer as we move forward. And nuclear is just produced twice as fast for less. It's got a lot of benefits to it all, and we've been misled. And now we're going to be pushed by the natural gas companies and coal companies to go into solar and go into wind because it's more profitable for them. So I hope we can all be aware moving forward.
Short-term gain for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing Brent and I were saying upstairs before we started this. Until we can get batteries figured out, nuclear's the best way to go.
And even when we do, maybe nuclear is still the best way to go. We just store all the energy we don't use right away.
Yeah.
We need better capacity. We need better capacity anyway.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if you could have a battery pack in your house that was always charged. It would last a week or something.
I know. It wouldn't matter if they turned the grid off.
Right. If power, and that's just it. If you could depend on that, and if power had to go down for whatever reason, you could do it, and it wouldn't destroy everyone's lives. With, you know, just let alone like not having cell phone and internet and all that other stuff, the entertainment side of it, but the whole your food going bad. So
and healthcare if you have somebody at home on a ventilator.
Oh man, yeah. There's
a lot of that has battery packs, but it'd be nice if your whole home did to be just a reliable source.
Gotta have it. So,
all right, people.
Hope you guys enjoyed.
I know. Real show. We nailed it.
That's
right. Vertical farming, nuclear energy, attacks on Boeing, attacks on... I didn't attack him, but some fun banter. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure this is a good quality product, and we talked about some interesting things you'll look into, and let us know what you think.
Yeah. Have a nice day. Have a nice week.
Thanks.